You're listening to Within Tolerance podcast, a podcast for machinists by a machinist. I'm your host, Dylan Jackson, and this week I am joined by Easton and Drew again. Welcome back, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us back again.
Yeah, appreciate it. I enjoy these.
Yeah, same. It's nice to get to talk to the other guys. I feel like very much paralleling my story.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's kind of funny. I think we're all at a very similar point in our business. And so it's just kind of fun to like chat with people who are literally dealing with the exact same problems continuously.
Yeah, well, we're all like, I don't know, within 12 months of each other of all going possibly full time too, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. I'm going to be a little bit further off, but even still, yeah, it's very similar states of business and everything, and just kind of the growth, where we started, when we started, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So before we've got a few listener suggestions for topics we should cover, but let's get some updates on how everything's going with you guys.
You want to go first, Easton, or should we talk at the same time like you and
All
Jake?
right. I mean, sure. I'll go first. I don't think we need to talk over each other this time because we don't have Jake. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, nothing too much is new. Just keep making parts, just working through some parts. I've been turning a fair amount of titanium the last couple of weeks. That's been interesting. Just
Get my parts done yet?
I have not actually. I mean, the material still isn't here. Hopefully the material will be here tomorrow. That was an awesome one. I tried out a new material supplier because they were like really good reputation and everything. And they said 3 to 5 day lead time. I was like, perfect. I'll order this material right away after I got the purchase order. And I placed the order and they said, oh, it's actually it's a 10 to 12 day lead time now. They send me an email. I was like, oh, well, that's cool. I mean, thanks for telling me before I placed the order.
Yeah, no kidding.
All the tooling is here. I've ran sample parts in aluminum.
So it's all ready.
It's all ready. It's just I just don't actually have the steel to run them. So
that's fun.
I even have the packaging already.
Like, you could have gone down. Honestly, you could have gone down to Home Depot and bought material from Home Depot. Would have been fine.
Pretty much. I mean, I was just like, well, I guess I really should have ordered this material from Alro. No, so I mean, just running through some jobs, tracking down leaks on my lathe. It's a lot of fun just because figuring out, it's not like leaking from the castings or anything. It's like the parts catcher. It goes onto the conveyor and splashes off of the conveyor onto the floor.
So what do you say the longest slide you've achieved in your shop is so far?
I got like this nasty like bruise all over my chest right now from slipping in the oil and just face planting straight into the coolant tank and just getting scraped. That one was pure karma though, because like my live tooling drivetrain came out of alignment. This is on Friday. And the like official procedure from Nakamura is to pull off the turret cover and then loosen all of the bolts, start the live tool at 1,000 RPM, and then tighten the bolts while it's spinning.
Oh, that doesn't sound sketchy at all.
And so I'm like, I was prepared to do that, and then Norman stops by my shop to like pick up something. I think there were some like 3D printed parts for his lathe. And I like offhand mentioned, I was like, oh yeah, later today I gotta go like realign the live tool. I don't think I tightened the bolts tight enough the first time. And he's like, so then I'm like programming something. He like walks out and I like hear him like rummaging through my toolbox, grabbing like Allen keys. And I was like, oh, I guess he's going to do that. And I like yelled out into the shop. I was like, do not take my live tool out of the turret though, because everything is still touched off. And like, I am making like really tight tolerance titanium parts right now. I don't want any of my offsets changed. And he goes, well, never mind then. I'm not sticking my hand in there with like sharp end mills and everything. And I was like, you know what? I'll do it. And I was like, I was going to do it anyways. So then I'm like standing there and I go to go do it. And I like it's a positive air pressure system. So I popped out the last screw on the turret cover with like the one with all the numbers on it. And it popped and I slid forward with the oil spill.
Oh, jeez.
And just like scraped up my chest.
Oh,
I'm glad you didn't go face first into a tool or something.
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I mean, so it was just pure karma of me telling Norman to stop, like, being a sissy.
Right.
So it was.
Doc was like, "I'll show you who's a sissy."
Well, I mean, it showed me twice in a week. So, well, actually, Micro 100 was the culprit the first time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you got to tell that story too.
Yeah, that was the first quote unquote real shop injury.
Did you report it to OSHA?
Oh, they asked me when I got to the hospital. They said, "Is this a work-related injury?"
Absolutely not.
I said, "Yep, but I'm self-employed." So, and they were like, "Oh, okay."
Next thing you know, you got an OSHA inspector. Yeah, next thing you know, you got an OSHA inspector showing up at your door.
Well, yeah, and then it was. So what happened was, well, I guess I'll get into that too. So turns out parting off 2-inch diameter titanium bar is not a lot of fun.
Shocker.
Shocking.
It really, I spent probably half the day on Monday on the phone with ISCAR technical support because I'm using the same parting tool, pretty much the same inserts that I've been using. I've never had a problem with it ever. First, like 3 or 4 parts. So I was running, since titanium's super expensive and materials provided by the customer, I started out running them in aluminum and then switched to titanium. So aluminum ones went all fine. I got all my tolerances dialed in. Switched over to titanium. First, like 2 parts came out beautifully. And then, like, I was like, all right, well, I'll walk away. And, like, the next 3 parts, suddenly the part off sounds like garbage. And the finish looks like shit on the side of the part. It's like, it's just smearing titanium across the side of the blade.
Ugh.
And I, like, put one of the parts on a surface plate. I'm, like, measuring across the face with an indicator. There's, like, a 20 thou dish on the back of the part.
And that's a ton for, like, a 2-inch part.
Yeah. And it was just bad. And it was, so I, like, stopped and I called ISCAR and I was like, I don't even know what's going on. Like, why did it suddenly do this? Like, because I did the obvious things. I took the insert out, I put a new insert in. Same thing. And so by like the 3rd part that it did it on, I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna call tech support. And it's like you call and it's some old guy who's probably used every machine on the planet and every tool on the planet. And he goes, let me guess, your chips are in the shape of a pigtail instead of a watch spring. I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, that means that your blade is like deflecting in this direction. And I would check your y-axis like center line. Like, oh, okay, I'll go check that. He goes, oh yeah, pull everything out of the turret and like measure it in or indicate everything in and just check your like y-axis center line. So I go out into the shop. This is like, I don't know, 4:30. And I get out there and I pull the blade out. And I was like, in order to make sure I'm not like immediately already like in a bad position, I'm going to go check the blade for flatness first on the surface plate. Sure enough, there's like a 5 thou bend in it now after. So I don't know if it was chicken or the egg, but I'm pretty sure it's the egg, I think. And so it's already bent. So I was like, all right, well, I don't have another parting blade. I already ordered one, but it's not going to be here till Wednesday, so I got to make this one work. And so I'm putting it in the turret, and my goal was to put it in the turret at an angle to like compensate for the bent blade, because it's a really short blade. The blade is only about an inch and an eighth long, so you can part off like a 2 1/4 inch bar. It's really short, so I can actually just, if the front section of the blade is bent, I can just compensate that out. So I'm sitting there indicating it in, and you're reaching around and like tightening like the set screws to put the blade in. And one of the set screws gave, and tool number 1 is my parting tool. Tool number 2 is this Micro 100 like back profiling boring bar that can do like profiling like a shallow counter bore. So it's pretty much in the shape of like a number 11 scalpel blade. And it just sliced my like palm open. And it's one of those ones where it doesn't hurt at all when it goes through your hand. and you're like, your body's just like, all right, now it's time to go to the hospital right now. And I'm just
you start
bleeding
moving your
everywhere.
hand and like the pieces of skin move independently of each other. And you're like, oh, I'm so fucked.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, it's like I can see like down inside of my hand. I was like, yeah. And so I'm like, I can't drive like this. Like, I can't, I can't like put pressure on it and drive like this. I like called my mom and I was like, can you come like take me to the hospital? Like,
sure she loved
like,
hearing.
Yeah, I'm
Don't have a
leaving
heart
right
attack.
now.
You always got to start those calls with, I'm okay, but.
Well, I forgot to do that. So like on my mom's way, she calls me again while she's driving. She's like, "Do you need an ambulance or like?" And I was like, "No. I just need transport." And she's like, "Oh, okay, good." I was like, "Yeah. Sorry, I should have mentioned it's just like a cut on my hand, but like, it's not good, but it's also not bad." And the best one was like I had planned to like on my way home stop at the post office and drop off some like next day air packages. So like my mom pulls up and I'm like, all right, so first thing we got to do before we go to the hospital, we got to go to the post office and drop off these next day air packages. And she's like, what? And I'm like, no, I don't care if I bleed out. I just don't want to lose these customers right now. These are new customers of mine.
Yeah.
Like, these have to go out today.
Can always make more blood. You can't make more customers, right?
That's right.
Exactly. So she's like, all right, I guess. And then my dad calls my mom to like find out what's going on while we're driving. And my mom's like, well, we're going to the post office first. And my dad's like, why the hell are you guys going to the post office?
Oh, man.
But
it's funny because I have a scar in almost the exact same part that you got cut from a Dewar knife doing the same thing, like so deep where I was like, oh man. And it was midnight or 1 a.m.
I remember that. You texted me when that happened.
Yeah. I texted Brad and I was like, this is really bad. And he's like, are you going to go to urgent care? And I was like, we'll see. It's a waiting game at this point. Like, we'll see how much if I can stop the bleeding in the next like minute or two, I think I'll be okay. And thankfully I did. But yeah, it was the same kind of thing where I was like, I don't want to peel back the skin to look at what I just did to myself.
Well, the worst part is that boring bar got me twice in like the span of like 2 days, because it was like I got a cut, and I can show this to you guys on the camera, but there's like the main cut, and then right above it on my thumb, I got a same like tiny little puncture cut from the same tool. And it's like that one I was like, I don't think I need to get stitches on that one. But then like the one right, like the main one, and I don't know how many of the viewers follow me on Instagram, but I posted on my story, and it was a pretty good cut, and I had to get 6 stitches, and it was a interesting start to my week.
So please tell me you bought some of those silicone tool covers to put over tools while you're working in the lathe.
What I did is I grabbed a bunch of plastic like cases and stuck them over.
Okay.
But the whole time I'm just like thinking in my head, like, I better not have chipped that boring bar. I better not have chipped that boring bar. Like, that's like $120 solid carbide boring bar. Like, I don't want to have chipped it. And luckily I didn't, but I also just texted the customer and I was like, at least you know I'm not cutting your parts with a dull tool.
Yeah.
So
that brings up a question. Do you guys know what your state's thing on workman comp is? Because I'm like looking into all of this as I get ready to go full time. And lucky me, Arizona has no loophole for owners working in their own business. So I have to pay for workers' comp for myself, even though I would never file a claim unless I got like deathly injured at work, you know?
Yeah.
See, I don't actually know the laws, but I'm also a single member LLC.
Right.
So
same for like in Arizona, you would still have to.
Oh, okay. Because I don't think in Wisconsin, if I'm a single, now this is worth looking into. But
my guess is you probably don't, because you guys like, you know, you have deep roots in like manufacturing on that side of the country, and like when I looked into it, a lot of states did have loopholes for it, or exemptions is the better word. Yeah. But of course, Arizona, nope. I'm like, great. So I got to pay for something I'll probably never use. But at least I'll have like a company and go through all that, you know.
Right. I don't think I need it if I'm the only employee, but I don't remember. It's been like a year since I talked about it, but I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, well, I mean, going back to our conversation last time, where it's like you try to do everything right as a small business, and you're like, great, so I'm gonna shoot myself in the leg, because I want to do things right. Awesome,
right? Yeah. How much money is this going to cost? How much more money do I have to make ends meet because of this?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I had a injury story. This will be quick. When I was in college, so dull bandsaw blades are still sharp to human skin. In case you're wondering. So I had like 3 or 4 hours in between classes one day, and I was working on something. This was when I was still in my parents' garage. I was like, I don't know, 19 or 20 or something. And so I was like, well, I'll run home. It was like 15 minutes from school to home, work on this thing for an hour or so, and then I'll come back because I had time to kill. Like 15 minutes in, I'm using my vertical horizontal combination bandsaw, cutting apart, and dull bandsaw blade, cheap poor college student, slips, and my pinky finger goes into the blade, and it was immediate. It was like I hit it and I pulled back, and I was like, yeah, that's not good.
Oh.
and I looked at it, and just like you described, you just like, I need to go to the hospital. So luckily it was small enough to where I could kind of contain it. So I literally, you guys can see me, the listeners can't, but I literally like duct taped my pinky like this, because it was my pinky, duct taped it back to my hand, and then like wrapped gauze around it. And then I drove like this to the hospital, drove my pinky out to the hospital, got my 4 stitches, and was an hour late to class. So that was fun.
Well, yeah, it was just, and like, they were like, and is your tetanus shot up to date? And I'm like, yes, it is. I am very glad that I keep that one up to date for sure.
Yeah.
Like,
though I don't think you're getting tetanus from carbide anytime soon.
Yeah.
But
they were like, was it clean? And I was like, yeah, it's a very clean, like, very clean tool, and like, my oil's filtered. They're like, oh, but oil. I was like, no, it's filtered. It's like, it's
not
very
motor
clean.
oil.
Yeah. It's not
Not
motor
a
oil.
mechanic.
It's not cooking oil. Like, we're good. We're good.
Yeah. It's mineral oil. We're all right.
So what about you, Drew? What's going on with you?
Oh, there's actually a lot of things going on right now. So I'll try and keep this somewhat brief, but because I got a few things I want to hit. But so about a month and a half ago, I had this guy from Vegas email me, reach out. Found me through SendCutSend, and I don't know why I said that weird, SendCutSend. And yeah, so a year or two ago, SendCutSend sent out to a lot of their customers like, hey, do you want to become a design partner? And as soon as they sent it out, I was like, absolutely, I want to do that. So I'm on their website as one of their design partners, and I've gotten probably half a dozen or so people reach out to me for design work, and it's been pretty simple stuff for the most part. This one, however, this guy makes a product. I'm not going to disclose what it is because we're launching it. But he makes a product, and he wanted to have it redesigned for a cost reduction. And like I told him, I said, well, I can't design it for a cost reduction unless I know who's making it. I said, I can make this product for you, but I need to know if that's the direction you want to go, because he'd be going away from his current supplier. And so he said, yeah, let's, you redesign it, quote me on a prototype and then these volumes. So I redesigned it, and I've been going around trying to find the best quotes. I've worked with like 7 or 8 different suppliers because I have to outsource part of it. And I think I finally got the best quote back today for it. And I got the prototype back from the supplier I had to send it to get the prototype parts back. And that was what I was telling you guys about in the chat, that I get to use my 3D printer. So
this is the one that you like tried to get me to make on my lathe.
Well, I wanted you to quote it out of aluminum, because he wanted to see it out of aluminum. I didn't want to do it out of aluminum, but he wanted to see it out of aluminum. Like, no, the 3D printed part will be good. Believe me, you'll be fine. And so I've got this thing all designed, and I've just been trying to work through quotes and whatnot. But I finally have a quote that's solid from the one supplier, and I'm putting together a process now of how we're going to do the in-house work that we got to do. And then I'm making the prototype in the meantime, and 3D printing some tooling to help make it and stuff like that. So it's pretty neat. It could be good volumes. I mean, the guy right now is selling 70 of these a month. It's an RC. It's an RC car part. I can say that much. And he wants to try and grow this to between, where he's at 70 a month up to about 500 a month. So it could be really good volumes of work, which it's not huge profit margin. It's not, massive stuff, and no one's going to get rich, but it could be good, steady work for us. That's one thing that I've been doing.
$500 a month is quite a bit. Like, I'm always shocked at like the size of the RC market.
It is. It's huge. And that's what my dad was even asking me today. He's like, how big is the RC car market? I said, it's like major. There's a reason Traxxas sponsors like NASCAR and drag racing. Like, they have money. There's a reason that they can afford to do that, you know? So that's one project I've been working on that's really, I've been really enjoying that. And he actually paid me for the design work, which like, I almost never get paid for the design work, which is cool. Except for at my day job. And then about 2 months ago, another guy reached out to me. This is a carburetor builder. So he does custom built to order carburetors for custom applications. So I actually bought a carburetor from him. That's partially how we got in contact. And I won't say names because reasons, but there's a big carburetor manufacturer, as you know, carburetors can probably infer, whose parts are coming out of China and they're subpar. And so this guy reached out to me. He's like, hey, can you make this? Like, can you redesign this so that it is easier to make and make it? And just make it perform the same. Just make the quality, not garbage. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. That's no problem. And so I set off and reverse engineering these things and redesigning them. And there's two pieces. One's called a banjo and one's called a booster. And I redesigned them and I used some of commercially available parts to compare against. And we actually put these things on a flow bench. A buddy of mine's an engine builder. He's got a flow bench, dry flow bench. And we put the carburetor, one Venturi on the flow bench. And we swapped out different banjos and boosters and got to the one that I had designed. And the one that I designed performed significantly better than all the rest of them, which was really awesome. Cool, really encouraging, really cool. And I didn't expect for that to be the case. I was just like, hey, this kind of looks good. Let's take a swag at this. And it was like the one number was about 7 to 8% increase over nominal, which was like, holy crap, this is huge.
That's really good.
So I told the customer, I said, hey, this is where we're at. And he got all excited about it. I said, so what I want to do is make these out of aluminum and then send them off to you, have you test them. So the next thing I'm going to do is because these would be perfect for a live tool lathe or something with a fourth axis. I have neither. So I'm going to set up my 5C collet chuck on my Haas and do one side and flip it over and do the other side and then cut it off and put it in a vise. Because I'm going to make 16 of these things. And then I'll probably have one of you lathe boys make the actual lathe part, the round part.
I just remember the first time you sent me an RFQ, you said, I don't really see lathe work come across my desk very frequently, so that's why I don't have a lathe myself. Then proceeds to send me like once a week an RFQ.
A lathe RFQ. Yeah. So the last like month has been weird. I've gotten a bunch of stuff, and it's been a bunch of different reasons. But yeah, so I'm gonna try and make these things in house if I can. We'll see, to spec. And then send them. We're going to reflow them, and then I'll send them off to. The guy's name is Dominic. I'll send them off to Dominic to get him to check them out and see if they perform as he needs, and then he'll start putting them into specific people's carburetors, including probably one of my own, to be able to test them for him. So that's super exciting. I'm really excited about that too, because it's just there's the market for it is big. There's the opportunity for a lot of parts, and this is not. I'm not racing to the bottom. None of this stuff I'm racing to the bottom. It's all high value, stuff, which is what I've been trying to get to. And then the other one that I'm most excited about is, like I was telling you guys, I'm launching some new products. So I've been working for the last 3 months just doing CAD work, reverse engineering, and I bought a bunch of big block Ford parts so that we can just start making our own stuff. Because in the Ford jet boat world, specifically the 385 series stuff, there's just not a lot of parts available. And so either the stuff that is available is either Chinese junk or it's old. And the old stuff is okay, but it's just that it's old. So, I mean, you're dealing with old corroded aluminum basically, right? And a lot of times you get pinholes in them, people weld them up, stuff like that. It's not ideal. So I found a hole in the market and I'm starting to release parts. The first one I released was a water outlet, is what it's called in the industry. It's just a little plate with a -10 ORB fitting in it, and it bolts down to the thermostat housing on the 385 series. And we're doing a few different variations of it, but the biggest thing is it's a complete package. So this part normally has a gasket underneath it. I'm going away from the gasket, and I've tested it on my boat. It uses an O-ring, a -327 O-ring, and it's a silicone one, so it's high temp. It can handle the extra heat and stuff. And then I'm offering it. It'll come with ARP 12-point stainless bolts and the washers for it, and you'll have an option of either black or bare, black anodized or bare, because a lot of guys in the boat world like to have them custom anodized for color for the boat and stuff. So
Right.
Are they metric or imperial bolts?
Standard.
They're standard?
Yeah.
What size are they?
5/16, 18, inch and a quarter underhead length.
Interesting.
Yeah. Why?
I've got something to talk to you about after.
Okay. That works. We'll chat. That works. Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be a kit. It'll come with the O-ring, obviously. It'll come with the plate, and then it'll come with the bolts, the ARP bolts. And it's the stories I've been posting. That's the part where I had, I think, a bar of 3 of them on it. That's the piece I'm talking about. And then the thing that I've never seen anybody do in this industry, it's like you buy, and Dylan, you've built enough cars, you probably know this. You buy a part, and it's like, but you need to find the bolts or the fitting or whatever to go into it. And you're like searching for hours trying to figure out what the hell goes in this thing. So I went to Fregola, which is an American-made fitting company and an American-run and made everything fitting company. And we're also going to offer it with the option of you can also buy a -10 straight fitting or a -1090 swivel fitting for it as well. So you don't have to find the fitting. You don't have to find the bolts. I've done all the hard part for you. All you have to do is bolt it down and go.
Yeah.
And if you do buy the fitting, it actually comes with a high temp O-ring that I've swapped out for the stock Viton one that comes from Fregola. So
nice.
it's just the idea is to make a complete package. We've got some other stuff I'm working on. The next is there's a plate that goes on the front of the motor where the water pump would be in a car. And that's the next one we're going to do. And it'll be the same thing. It'll come with the plate. It'll be the fittings. It's going to come with a stainless hard line to go from one fitting to the other, and an entire complete bolt kit from it. It'll be all stainless ARP. And then I'm going to try and do an O-ring. That one's a little harder to do an O-ring, but we're going to try and do an O-ring. So then we come with that as well. So everything we're going to do is going to be complete package, right? It'll be just something that you can receive and bolt in, not something that you got to sit there and fiddle dick with and figure out how to put this thing together.
Right.
So I've tried to take that kind of stuff out of it.
Nice. Yeah. True bolt-ons are rare. Like
very. And there's always going to be that case where it's like, oh, well, I got a -12 instead of a -10. It's like, well, you can buy an adapter to go from 10 to 12, or like, there's going to be little stuff like that. But by and large, my goal is that most people will be able to bolt this on and go. And I'm going to be coming out with some literature with it too, because the way you route water lines in a jet boat is not a hard and fast rule, and it confuses a lot of people because it's not a hard and fast rule. Not everybody understands it. And so I'm going to come out with some diagrams for how to plumb these things, so that way you can get, one, the most effective way of doing it, but two, also just like the cleanest possible way of doing it. So you don't have lines crossing everywhere, and you get the lines up out of the bilge, because in the bilge of a boat, there's inevitably oil, and as soon as you get a little tiny drop of oil, it's on everything, and so it just makes the lines crappy and erodes the rubber and all sorts of other stuff. So, but that's the biggest stuff I'm working on. It's a lot going on, which is cool, but it's just one little step at a time.
That's super cool.
Yeah, those parts look great, though.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well,
I was going to say real quick, what about drilling and tapping NPTs?
Oh, that was interesting. So this tap that I bought is a Goering, and it squeaks when it goes in, and it scares the shit out of me every time it does it, because I think it's going to snap. But it's tapped now, 200 holes, and it's totally fine. So what I originally was going to do is drill and tap, or drill, ream and tap with a taper reamer. Ultimately, I couldn't, because the way that part is that I'm making, it's got a port that goes in from one direction, another port that crosses to it. And so if you ream it, you'll bottom out. The geometry just doesn't work.
Right.
So, and I designed this part for this customer. This is actually a part I designed for him. And it's just the way it all works out. You can't change it. So what I ended up doing is drilling it, and then I come in with an end mill, and I just open it up to the size I want, and then come in and run the chamfer it, and then run the tap through. I'm tapping at, I think, 500 RPM, something like that. Pretty slow, which I probably could go a little faster, which would help fling the chips off when it comes back, when it retracts. But I was just being ultra conservative with it. And this tap that I was able to get, it's not necessarily designed for aluminum. It's one of like, it'll work for aluminum, but I wasn't able to find anything that was better, and they didn't really give feeds and speeds for aluminum. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to err on the side of slow and hope for the best. But the drill is a YG1, first YG drill I've ever used, and it's just a regular jobber carbide drill, and it works great. And I'm just plunging it, and it's going down, I think, 3 times L over D, and it's just running in and coming back out, and it works fantastic. So awesome. I haven't had any issues there. So it's worked out well.
On that tap, you mentioned flinging the chips off, and I don't know it's been a while since I've used a VF2, so I don't know what the spindle acceleration deceleration is like on that on those things. But something I'll do on my Speedio, if I've ever got like a tap like that, I wind it as it comes out of the hole. I whip it at 16,000 RPM in reverse, and it just flings everything off of the drill before it does a tool change.
And I was in, I think Octane Work Holding showed something like that too, for when he had like stringy chips and you turn the drill back and fling them all off. Yeah. I want to do that, but I haven't gotten adventurous enough to go and screw with the code or, figure out how to do it in CAM. I'd love to be able to figure out how to do it in CAM to where I could post like an option when drilling, spin the drill backwards to clean the chips, like a chip cleaning cycle or something like that.
Yeah, I've got it in, so there's a part I make that hopefully, crossing my fingers, will never ever touch the Speedio ever again.
You mean you don't like it?
As in, I make it's one of the parts I make thousands of, and right now I do it as 2 operations, one in the Miyano, one in the Speedio, and I literally bought the Nakamura to make this part.
Nice.
So I haven't actually tried making it in the Nakamura yet, so we'll see. But I've got like an 8mm counter bore in it, and for the first like 500-600 of them, I milled the counter bore, and then I realized I can buy flat bottom drills. Yeah, I can just pop it in one go. But even like I had this like Kennametal through spindle coolant flat bottom drill. Thing was a piece of garbage. It would and then I got like this OSG one, and the OSG one is pretty good, except after a couple parts on the pallet, it still strings up. So what I do is I do 2 parts, and then I reverse the spindle, 2 parts, reverse the spindle.
Did you hand code that though?
I'm doing it as a pass through.
Okay.
Manual NC like pass through.
Gotcha. Okay. But so you're hand coding it just in CAM and passing it through to the control.
Yeah. So what it is so the whole pallet is a pattern,
right?
Of a batch of 2 parts per, and then it repeats the batch of 2 parts, and so then
you can do that after the batch of 2, and then it'll pattern all 3.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
So, and then the only other thing I was going to mention about the NPT. So, are you just opening it up to size, or are you doing like a bore operation where you create a taper?
So I thought about doing that, the bore operation. I've done that before. Like when I've thread milled NPT threads, that's exactly what I do is I do a ball nose and I bore it, and then essentially it surfaces it to a taper. But with this, I'm actually leaving it straight. I did the numbers, did the research on what the hole size needed to be for a drilled hole, unreamed hole for the NPT tap. And so that's what I'm doing. It's just opening it up because with it makes it fast. So I can drill the hole and then it just plunges straight down. It's a contour cut and it just literally does it once and then redoes it. And then it's nice and round and as good as it needs to be. And then I can jam the tap through it. So
yeah, I'm always way too chicken for that. So what I do is I just use a flat end mill. I don't even like switch to a ball nose or anything.
Right.
I just use a flat end mill and do like a ramp down the bore. So it leaves it like staircase stepped. Mm-hmm. But it's like, I'm always worried that there's going to be like too much pressure as the tap gets like larger. I
don't know that I would want to do this much larger than like quarter NPT. I think I'd want to use at least the reamer. The idea with these parts is I can't make a lot of money with them. Like I can't have the cycle time be super high. So I got to do them fast. Right. So I needed to be able to punch the hole in it, and just doing a quick contour is fine. That's not a huge cycle time sink, and then be able to run the tap through and come back. So that was why the idea was drill, ream, tap. So it's just kind of the happy medium between there. So
I haven't had a problem with a straight drill with an NPT tap. At least small ones like 8th NPT hasn't been an issue.
I did only in a 4140 pre-hard. 1/8-inch NPT was not having a good time in that. That was the first tap I blew up in the Speedio.
Oof. Yeah, there's
you guys just got to do like me and stay in aluminum. I mean, it makes things easier. I don't know why you guys choose to make all these other materials, but
we choose it.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely say to my customers, "Hey, you got any of that like Inconel work? I'm like really tired of machining aluminum right now.
Can you throw me some 625? It'd be awesome."
Exactly. Yeah, I convinced them. I'm like, no, I know you wanted aluminum, but how about titanium?
Yeah, I've
let's hear
been
about
really
this
fortunate.
like fourth axis though.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's installed. I haven't trammed it in yet, and I haven't. So, interesting note: if you're looking at getting a Speedio, and you get the fourth, the T200 specifically, the Brother Force. Well, I guess now it's a T200A. It comes with one sheet that is all of the backlash parameters, and on the sheet it says, "Brother will not print you another one of these. Keep it for your records." And Jacob sent me the manual. He was super nice because I was like, "Oh man, did you send me the manual?" He's like, "No, I'll overnight it." And then he sent it, and then I didn't even think anything of it. I was like, "Oh, the parameters are in there." And then guy from Yamazon gets out here. Brad texts me while he's at the shop. "Hey, do you have the backlash parameters?" I'm like, "Are they not in the manual that's in that box?" And he's like, "Nope." It's like, oh no. And like, thankfully, Jake was able to find them. So I need to put those in now. I mean, I know where to do them and all that. But hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we'll get our first part on there. I've got some production work that I'm running through the Speedio. Some rare production work for us.
Wait. Let's define production in your world really quick.
235 parts.
Nice.
Oh wow,
that's more than me.
So did we just switch roles suddenly? Like, because like the last week in my shop has been like, hey, can you make this one off? Can you make these like 2 parts that every single part is a different part number, kind of thing?
I think so. Well, this is the part that I sent you, and I was like, "You're going to quote this next time I get it," because I'm not making the first time I made these parts. It was 30 of them, and I was like, "Oh, that's sweet. I can knock it out in like a day."
Yeah.
And then they sent me this order, and I was like, "Oh, it'll be fine." And then I loaded it up yesterday, and I was like, "I already regret this." Like,
yeah.
But yeah, so Force in there. I'm waiting to hear. I was texting you yesterday, Easton, because I am getting towards the upper limits of like the table load weight or table weight load, like max on the Speedio. And I think I've adjusted all the settings I need to, but I'm waiting to hear back from Yamazon to make sure that I haven't screwed anything up. Because it can go up to, I think it was 616 pounds. And with the subplate and the orange vices and all the ZPSs and the fourth, I'm at like 505, I think it was.
Okay.
So you don't have a lot of weight for parts?
No. I mean, I don't think I've ever done a part in the Speedio bigger than a 5x5 cube.
Right.
So
right.
That's really not that much weight. But we'll also have the 90-degree orange sub thing on there and a Delta vice. And so I pulled off one of my 6-inch vices yesterday just to keep the weight down.
Now, is that the max weight it can run, period, or is that the max it can run at full acceleration?
Well, I think it's period. They're kind of dodgy about it in the brochure because like that's the 616 is already with the accelerations turned down. Like there's a table load setting you can put in, and as soon as you go from 300 kilograms to 500 kilograms, it decreases accelerations for X and Y across the board.
Wait, 500 kilograms? So the max table weight is 1,000 then, right?
Yeah.
I don't think so, though. Like, the specifications on their website say 616 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't really understand the setting. The setting's from 0 to 999 kilograms, but, like, you're not putting 1,000
pounds.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not putting half the machine weight on.
Right, exactly, yeah. I'm gonna drive my car onto the bed of the Speedio and fling that thing around. So, yeah, it's looking good though. Like it all fit. I ended up not mounting the fourth on the ZPSs. Like when we had Orange design the plate, we had them design it to put it on the ZPSs so it'd be quick removable. But the Brother rotaries are not wired for that. Like there's no quick disconnects on the fourth, so you would have to. I might end up actually just adding them to it, but also. I didn't want to lose that Z because the ZPSs are like an inch something tall. And so I would have lost another inch on Z.
I think they're like an inch and 3/8 is my guess because I think that's the magic orange vice number for their quick couplings. Eric uses like inch and 3/8 across the board. I think. Like I remember if I want to make a plate that uses those ball lock couplers that I've got, it needs to be an inch and 3/8 inch thick plate.
Okay, then yeah, that makes sense. I do know that they're more than an inch. So yeah, I made an adapter plate, which I was messaging you guys was all kinds of fun because I've used those solid inserts a million times. And usually I just take the pre-drill size straight from McMaster and don't think twice about it. but this time it was a 5/8 and so I used my fancy thread program, and it gave me whatever the miner is supposed to be, and I interpolated it perfect and tapped it, and spent 30 minutes trying to install these freaking inserts, and they kept camming out. Like I couldn't get more than one thread in, and finally I look at the McMaster page. I'm like, yeah, it says 5/8 and going back and forth. Finally I look at the pre-drill size. I'm like, oh, that's 40 thou bigger than I made the miner on these. So I threw it back in, probed it, cut it out, and they flew right in. I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Gotta love that.
So Brad did not end up putting them in.
He put the 2 in that I got half stuck in there.
Oh, okay.
Because the M12 ones that I got use the same installation tool as the 7/16 inserts. And so it's fairly loose in there too. And so the second it got tight on those, it just stripped out the inside of that first little counterboard thread that like doesn't matter.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was like, sweet. And the 4th is supposed to be installed tomorrow, so I don't have time to order new ones. So I was like, oh, hey, Brad, get a bolt and 2 nuts so you can install this the other way that you're supposed to. But it all worked out.
That's good. I'm glad you guys got it on. That's a really huge improvement.
Oh, yeah. I'm super excited just to be able to hit, 3-4 sides of a part, something like that.
Yeah.
I miss having a 4th, and now that I've got the lathe, I might end up just using the lathe for anything that requires a 4th, but
that's my plan. If I buy a live tool lathe, that's literally what it's going to be, is a 4-axis mill. A bar fed 4-axis mill.
Both you and Dylan have said that, and I don't think you guys understand how bad live tooling is.
I have seen enough of it to understand it's not as ideal as I'd like, but it's still better than not having it at all.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's the thing that everyone like, because you get all these people like, they're like, I'm just gonna use my lathe as a 6-axis mill.
Right.
It's like,
good luck.
Have fun with that.
Give it a try. Let me know how you like it.
Depends on what you're cutting too and what you're doing. Like if you're cutting aluminum, and I think you're in a better spot depending on what it is. But I've seen some live tool horrors with, especially taking some bigger cuts on some harder materials.
That, but it's also like you got like extreme lack of rigidity even in the turret when you're using the Y, because then you're moving in 2 axes at once on most turrets because it's a compound axis. And then the other thing is you're limited on RPM.
Right.
Like most turrets don't go above like 6,000 RPM unless you get like a DMG Mori NLX.
Right. I think the Doosan was like 6,000 when I was talking to them.
Yeah. I'm at 3,600 is my max on my Nakamura.
That would just take me back to the days of using my Shizuka where it's 4,500 and just watching it work for hours.
Yeah. One of the guys I program for, he's got an old Haas VFO, I think. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a 8,100 RPM spindle, but he's like, don't go above 6,500. I'm like, cool. Okay. So I can't use any of my speeds and feeds standards. Got it. Okay. Yeah, it's all kinds of fun.
Yep.
You mentioned like a thread calculator. What thread calculator do you end up using?
So it is called ThreadPal, I believe.
Hold
okay. On. I'm bringing
up. So it was like $10 or something, wasn't it?
I think it's like 75, if I remember.
Oh, is it?
Let me look it up. But
wait. You're spending $75 on that instead of just getting going on Theoretical Machinist?
It is called ME ThreadPal. It is the best thread thing I've ever used.
You mean you don't just flip through the machinery's handbook every time?
No. Yeah, so it's $80. Wow. It's $79.95. But it's been worth it. Like it'll do over wires, measurements.
Oh, it's over there.
STI, MPT, everything.
Nice, that's cool.
I'll check it out because I cut threads a lot. Does it do like lathe threading or no?
I mean, it does internal and external stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll do. I mean, it literally has everything like crest and root, radii, all your constants for the wire stuff, flat at crests, like what they expect. And then like for form taps or cut taps, you can choose between 50 and 100% thread engagement or tap engagement.
To me, that's like the money right there. Being able to set what percentage you want without having to do all the math.
Yeah.
Well, that's where OSG's website is really nice. OSG has
Yeah.
that like calculator where you can literally just tell it exactly what percentage and calculate from there. But
Yeah, I forgot about that.
no, right now I use there's a website called Theoretical Machinist.
I use some of their stuff for like fits, for like pin fits and stuff. They've got a great calculator for that too.
Really?
They've like got a really awesome thread calculator, except it only does imperial threads.
Oh, jeez.
So it's really handy. It like does exactly everything you're describing right now. It'll tell you the wire fits. It'll like you can punch in exactly what size wires you want to use, and it'll tell you what the diameter should measure across the wires and everything.
Nice.
And which was super handy. I used to make these optics rings, and they had like a thread pitch that was like 0.5 millimeter thread pitch, and it was like a 2-inch diameter part. And so we had to use 11 thou diameter wires.
So how many did you lose?
Oh, what we did is we didn't buy 11 thou wires or we didn't buy like thread wires. What we bought was a tube filled with 11 thou, like 3 foot long 11 thou wire.
Oh.
And then you can just, when you lose them, you just go and grab another piece and snip off a couple more pieces of wire.
Nice.
That's funny.
Okay.
And then when you breathe on them, they bend.
Right.
Oh yeah. It was. Eventually I came up with this contraption where I was using like clay to like build up on the table, and I'd drop the part inside the clay, and then the wire I would like stick through the clay on both sides, and then like mic over it. It was awful.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah. Not jealous. Not at all.
No, not even remotely. I'll pass. Hard pass on that deal.
Yeah.
I hope to never touch thread wires ever again, but I know I will. So
I use them occasionally. Most of the stuff I do, I don't need to be that accurate with it. It's just as long as the gauges or the screws that I've got go in and they're not super loose or super tight, they're within a usable range. It's pretty okay.
Well, I think my favorite one is still there's like that This Old Tony video where he's like shows using thread wires, and it cracks me up every time I use thread wires because I can never get that like video out of my head of he's like, I don't know what everyone's talking about. Using thread wires is easy. You just grab the thread wires and you see his like 2 hands come out and like put the 2 thread wires on the side, and then he goes, and then you grab your micrometer and this like third hand comes out and like
My favorite one of his is where he says when he's cutting something on a lathe, and I just keep cutting until the part is scrap, and that's usually when I know I'm done. And that's like the story of my life on a manual machine.
Yeah, Brad, his saying from his dad is, I've cut it 3 times and it's still too small.
Yep, for sure. Oh, that's funny. So did you guys want me to talk about this shop acquisition thing?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so give us some backstory and then jump into it.
Yeah. So obviously, given kind of what I was talking about before, I've kind of started heading toward this motorsports market. And as people probably know from following me on Instagram and on the podcast and stuff before, I'm big into drag racing and boats and other stuff. So I got some friends in nitro drag racing, which is Top Fuel. Most of it's nostalgia, so it's the old school looking cars. And a good friend of mine, former colleague of mine, he is building a Top Fuel Altered, which if you're not familiar with the Top Fuel Altered, go look him up on YouTube and then try to figure out why someone would compel themselves to get in one. Because it's a death trap and they're awesome. But they're the most cool things on the planet, in my opinion. But he used to drive a Top Fuel funny car, and he had this sponsor called Titan Speed Engineering. Well, long story short, Titan burned down a few years ago, and then it changed hands, and the guy that's running it was thinking about selling the shop. And being that this guy, a friend of mine, knew the guy, he mentioned me, and they kind of sought me out to be first right of refusal on the shop. So we talked on the phone a couple times and talked about the products, and Titan makes oil pumps for this application and some other applications, and they make a few other products too. But pretty much right now, all he's doing is oil pumps. That's all he's got time to do. And so talked on the phone, didn't really get any numbers from him, and even though I tried, and said, well, why don't you come up and see the shop? Okay, that's fine. He told me kind of the revenue numbers that the shop was making. So based on the revenue number and talking to my dad about how you value a company. My dad's, so a little backstory, quick aside, my dad has been a part of somewhere between 6 and 10 business acquisitions, whether it's him buying or him selling, and several different industries. So he's got a pretty good feel on how to value a business of varying different sizes. And so he and I talked it over, and we had a pretty good understanding of what we thought it was worth based on what he told us. And the X factor that we didn't know was what he had in inventory, because that's kind of, that's a dollar for dollar kind of thing for the most part.
Right.
So we make the drive up to Atascadero from Lakeside, and that's about 5 hours each way, and we did it in one day, so it was a little rough. But so we get up there and we see the shop and we tour it, and he had told me that he was going to have numbers for us when we got there, and he didn't, unfortunately. So that was kind of the first sign, and I was a little bummed out about it, but I said, okay, let's see the shop. And we kind of made it clear that, hey, I'm really only interested in the Titan stuff, because he had other things too. And I said, I'm also interested in these couple of smaller pieces of equipment that are ancillary to the whole process. A saw being one, and a grainer being another, and a tumbler being another. So not a ton of stuff that I really, really wanted. And after talking to you guys and thinking it over, so he's got a shop full of Haas equipment. His newest piece of equipment is a 2011 VF3 SS. And after seeing the machine was in pretty decent shape, but I just wasn't thrilled with it. And I would be able to make all of the parts that I needed to make for this product on my VF2. So I figured, well, let's just not buy that, because I don't want to buy a potential headache and basket case. And then he had a Haas lathe that was an older, I don't remember what it was, SL20 or something like that. And we'll leave that discussion for another day. But I didn't want to pick it up and carry it from Atascadero to Lakeside and reset it up and then go, oh crap, it lost parameters or something stupid, right? And so I figured I'll just outsource any lathe work, and then I'll do the mill work in-house on the machine I've already got. If sales carry everything, we'll buy another machine, and then we'll make that dedicated for Titan stuff. So that was the plan we went into this with. So looking around his shop, he had a shelf, and I do not say this in an exaggeration. He had a shelf worth probably $20,000 of vices. He had, I think, 8 Chick double station 6-inch wide vices, or whatever their measurement is. I don't remember 6, but roughly 6-inch wide. It was like, holy shit! And they were sitting there. They hadn't been used in who knows how long. He had 2 racks. I think I sent you guys the pictures. He had 2 racks of Kurt vices.
Yeah, it was like he bought a vice per product line.
Right, and that's not counting the other like 10 that were in the machines already, because he had, I think, 4 mills, and there was like 3 vices per mill. And I'm just like, dude, holy shit! Like, no wonder like you're trying to sell everything.
Are these like the door gifts? Like, can I take one of these chicks home with me? Like,
right?
This is these are like the business cards. Like, you just hand them out to the salespeople when they show up.
And it was just the he was a super nice guy, and I have nothing bad to say about him. It just, I was just shocked with how much money and resources he had spent on work holding and tooling. And it's honestly, this is something I've seen in a lot of old school shops, especially small shops. They shoot their wad on work holding and tooling instead of like figuring out a way to make something work with what they have, or like maybe spending the bare minimum amount of money to do something. They go and buy 8 Chick vices, like, just, and that's one thing I have learned from my dad is like, if you can put off buying something for a week, do it. Even if you have to buy it in a week, just put it off for a week, because every day that you put it off is a day that you could make money without it, and potentially make money forever without it if you can. And
that goes for material too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Although I did break that rule. I bought a whole bunch of material from a guy, quick aside, a whole bunch of material from a guy for making those boat shoes that I post, the U-shaped things, because material prices have been so all over the place. I can't afford to be like jacking prices up and down. So I bought like 30 feet of the material I need to be able to make those at a very good
30
price.
Feet. Those are rookie numbers. We got to get those bumped up.
Hey man, I think we're talking to make these things 1 or 2 at a time. So
I think they're like what, 3/4 inch?
Yeah. So the material starts as 3/4. I have 1 inch and I have 3/4 inch by 8 inch bar for them, and I use 8 inches at a time. So I got enough for a while.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of what the largest number of just like linear feet of material I've bought. I think it was for this one lathe job, and I think I bought 190 feet of round bar.
Nice.
Is this the one you bought the forklift for, and then it didn't show up in time?
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
That is small business in a nutshell, right there. That I bought the forklift for the material, and the forklift didn't show up in time to get the material. That is small business in a nutshell.
Yep.
Yeah. No. It was a good 2 hours of me just like the Alro guy was super patient. He was just sitting there, and I'm just like, oh, and like the forklift was supposed to arrive, and it wasn't going to arrive, and I knew it was going to arrive in time. So I like called my neighbor, like my next door neighbor, and I was like, "Hey, I hate to ask, can I borrow your forklift?" And they go, "Well, it doesn't have a crankshaft in it right now." So
those are kind of necessary.
Yeah, you can Flintstone it out there. And...
All right, cool. I guess I'm hand unloading.
Oof.
Oh, that's fun.
So back to your story.
Yes,
you see all this stuff.
Yeah, so I see all this stuff, and we went over the product. And he showed me all the inventory. And he had a lot of inventory, and what I had estimated the inventory was worth was ballpark about like $30,000. And so I'm putting numbers together in my head, and I had a number of what I figured this business should be worth. And so to shed a little light on it, not to give his numbers, but I called my CPA and I talked to my dad, kind of confirming what they both were telling me. So what the CPA told me, there's a bunch of different ways you can value businesses, but he said what his preferred way of doing it is you take a year's annual profit, so profit, not net profit, and you multiply that by about 75%, and that's what the sale price of the business is roughly worth. Now that doesn't count inventory and some other potential things that'll change that, but that's kind of like where you start. That's your negotiating point. And I've got another friend with a larger shop who's actually selling his business as well, and I was talking to him, and so his business, for point of reference, his business is about a $4 million a year business. They do about 25% net profit, and he's trying to sell it for about $750,000. So, I mean, you do that math, 25% profit, that's $1 million, 75% of that, $750,000.
Yeah.
So that's lock, stock, and barrel. That's everything, right? Wow. Now they're a job shop, so they don't have inventory. They just have machines and people and stuff like that, material, stuff like that. So that's kind of what I'm using to gate all of this. And my dad, that's what he's done for years with every acquisition he's been a part of. So the guy didn't have numbers for me when we got up there. So we came back, and I was pretty excited. And I was talking to my dad and trying to figure out how to make all this work if the numbers came back correct. Well, he sent me a number that was about 6 times what I had expected it to be. And I wanted to understand it because, like I had told him, I was like, I don't really want the machines. I don't really need the machines. So I want to understand how much of that machine is machines, for one. But then on top of that, I want to understand, like, okay, how much of this is inventory? How much of this is tooling? How much of this is work holding? Like, I can pick and choose. And in my mind, I'm buying what I need. I'm not buying what you want to sell me, right? That was the way I was viewing this. Because he wasn't selling his whole business. He was just selling this product line. And so really, I want to buy what I need. I don't want to buy anything extra. So I called him, and we talked about it, and he wanted, like, of the price, about 30% of it was equipment. And I wasn't willing to buy the equipment, especially not at that price, and I didn't really need it. So I told him I don't really want that. And then he asked me what he wanted for, or I asked him what he wanted for the inventory. What was the value of the inventory? Because that was the other unknown, and because that changes the conversation pretty dramatically. And he told me, and I said, so that's that price for the inventory. That's the cost, right? That's your cost, what it costs you to make it. He said, well, no, that's what I sell it. That's the racer price. I was like, but I can't buy it from you at the racer price and then resell it. Like,
right.
This doesn't add up.
Yeah. So I'm buying dead stock right off the bat.
Yeah. I'm in the whole 30%, whatever, like right now. So I'm like, I can't do that. Like, that's not even reasonable for you to even want me to do that. Like, that's not how that works. And he was at that point, he kind of shut down and was kind of adamant. He's like, well, this is what I got to have to get rid of it. I was like, that's fine. I'm not trying to offend you. I was trying to figure out a middle ground where, because he had a machine reseller coming in looking at his equipment too, who was going to put all this stuff together and auction it. He's still going to do that too. And so I was like, well, you don't need to sell this stuff to me, like the machines and stuff. Sell me what I need to make these parts, and then you can sell the rest of the stuff that you don't need, right? But ultimately what it came down to, regardless of the inventory, is he wanted about 3 or 4 times what the IP, the intellectual property, was. That's ultimately what it came down to. I did some research, and like, he had a Mastercam license, and he had a website and all this other stuff that he thought was valuable. Well, the web address, I looked it up on GoDaddy, and they've got an analysis tool that'll tell you exactly what it's worth. It was worth $1,600 for the website. It's like, so these things didn't have the value that he thought it did. And that's kind of the funny thing. The really funny thing is my dad told me from like day one, he's like, this guy's going to want this number for this business. He was within like $6,000 of what the guy actually told me.
No way.
Yeah. He's like, I've dealt with these guys for too long. I've been doing this for too long. He's like, because based on what I told him, he'd never talked to the guy, never seen the shop. He's like, he's going to want this much money for it. And he was dead on. And so kind of the interesting moral of the story is, when you're looking at a shop to buy, this guy didn't have books and didn't have any real accounting. And that should have been the first red flag. And it should have been like, okay, he doesn't understand what he's actually making. So in order to be able to sell it, you have to understand what you're actually making. And so he can't actually sell this business as a business. He has to sell this as, piecing out material or machines, and everything like that. And the other side of it too is the other red flag was he was trying to sell all this equipment to make his retirement, meaning he had not made any money or enough money to retire at this point. And so then he needed to be able to sell this stuff to retire. Like I said, I'm not saying anything bad about the guy. This is just observation. And so it's just what it is. And so I should have seen this going in, so that way it would have saved me and him some time. But nonetheless, it was a learning experience, and out of it gave me some ideas for some products too, not stuff that he's making, but stuff that's similar. And I can work with my buddies that are in the industry and do some testing and whatnot. So all in all, it was a good experience. I learned a lot, but decided not to purchase the company. And, but I've got my own stuff that we're working on. So I wasn't really too sad about it. Just kind of what it is.
Yeah. And 12 hours to learn that kind of valuable lesson. It sucks that you had to waste a whole day doing it, but
right.
I think those are some really valuable lessons.
Agreed. And it was fun driving up there with my dad too. Like he and I don't get to spend a lot of time talking and just being around each other. So that was the other thing too, is I got to pick his brain a lot on the way up there and like just get his experiences and just talk to him, because, I don't get a lot of time just sitting next to him without something else going on. And I got 12 hours of just sitting there chatting. So that was pretty valuable too.
Nice.
It sounds like you gained a lot of knowledge out of it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now I know who the expert in the community is. If I
wouldn't go that far
to buy a business, because I think, as you guys know, I do my own in-house powder coating, just because my quantities are low enough that it doesn't make sense to pay the minimums of the large powder coating shops around here. And so that's why I got into it. And then I found that it's also just easy to control it and everything like that.
Yep.
And there have been a couple times where I've had an emergency where I can't get it done, and I found this one little race wheel shop 15 minutes from my shop that's saved my bacon a couple times, kind of thing.
Nice.
And one time I went to go pick up some parts from him, and he's offering to sell me his business. And at that point I was just sorry, nope.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. But it's it seems like that might come up in the future at some point.
Sure.
And it definitely happened to you, kind of thing. And so it's just interesting.
Whether you're wanting to sell your own business or if you're wanting to buy a business, it sounds important. So wait, Easton, you make your own products?
Do you stock your own?
Not anymore, clearly, but no, I literally have not had any time to do anything, and it's gotten bad. I really do need to just take some time and go through and restock everything.
I know. I just had to dig at you a little bit.
Oh no, absolutely. You're waiting on a secret R&D product for over a year now.
Yeah, and, thankfully, the one I already have works pretty damn well. So
yeah, so
that's fine.
No, It's a lot of fun because I don't know if I described this in any other episodes. I've definitely described this to you two in the past, but it's my whole concept of when I got offered the Speedio at the price I did. I said to myself, oh my God, this will be perfect. The Tormach keeps up with all of my job shop work right now. But if I get the Speedio, I can keep doing the same amount of job shop work, and now I can get my products done too.
Yeah, famous last words.
Yeah, and now you have no Tormach, and the Speedio is busy with customer orders 100% of the time.
Yep. Or that's it's fine. Right now it's not running, but even if we weren't in the podcast, it wouldn't be running right now. Right. But the problem with it is I don't want to tear down my setup right now.
Right.
When I'm in the middle of a job.
Yeah.
Well, and you're one person. You have a whole bunch of lathes to keep fed as well, and yes, they are money printers, but they still require a little bit of tending from every now and again.
I'm not running the Nakamura unattended until I get fire suppression in there. So
that's probably a good idea.
It's probably smart.
And Mist Collector. The Mist Collector is still an interesting one. That's I've got to spend a lot of time on figuring that one out, and I'll probably need to pick Drew's brain because of the other part of Drew's company name.
Fab.
Drew Fab.
And doesn't stand for fabulous. That's a common misconception.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at you right now, and I can tell that it stands for fabrication.
I've been told I have that look. So I do want to say, too, so one of the things that's been going on recently, sorry, totally to cut you off. I didn't mean to cut you off, but this is I have not done anything. So you guys know this because you're small business owners, and every small business owner knows this. You never do anything for yourself because you never have time, right? And even if you have time, you don't use it for that. You use it for something else. Recently, I made a decision that I'm going to have a Jeep this year for the season because I tore mine apart about 4 years ago. I have not had a Jeep for 4 years.
I've seen pictures of it, torn apart.
Yeah. So there's a lot of pictures of it torn apart. I finally was like, screw this. I'm ready to have this thing, and I've saved some money so I can do this. And I've actually I had already ordered a bunch of parts, and they're just sitting on the shelves like this. This is money wasting at this point. So I've got a buddy of mine who owns his own fab shop as well. He's younger. He's still motivated and likes to do things and work underneath cars. And he's Easton's age. He's a baby. But I've been having him come over to my shop and work on the Jeep for me. And the suspension's hung under it. And it's the most satisfying thing in the world is to me is to be working in my shop, getting stuff done, making money, and developing new products and all this other stuff I've been doing, and then actually get to see something for myself come to life, whether I'm building it or not. He's doing it with my direction, but it's been the most satisfying thing in the world is to just see it come to life because I just want to have it done. I want to get it to the point where I can use it.
I'm really hoping tomorrow with this production job that I'm going to be doing the same kind of thing because I'm going to be building my MR2's engine. Finally, it's been sitting torn apart, heads off, everything. And so I know the feeling for sure.
Yeah. And it's I kind of got to the point where I was like, if I don't just bite the bullet and get this done and bring help in, I'm never going to get it done. And it's just going to sit there wasting away. And it sucks. So yeah, it just got to the point where I was like, I got to do this.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. And wait, you got a Jeep recently, right, Dylan?
No, we got a Trooper. So that's the reason I need to work on the MR2 amongst many other reasons. One being that it's my daily driver and the clutch is slipping like crazy. And it's I'm not going to put money into it, fixing it. I'm just going to swap the, but yeah, we bought two actually Isuzu Troopers because some guy was selling two almost identical ones because we'd wanted a shop truck and we didn't really want something new. We wanted something we could, work on and stuff. And I actually had an Isuzu Trooper the same year as these ones when I was a kid, 5 to 10, I think, or 5 to 8. And I remember sitting in the passenger seat and having my dad shift for him and stuff. And so I'm super excited, tons of nostalgia. And then we're going to swap the engine for a 1UZ, which is the 4-liter V8 out of LS400, because there's a guy who already makes a kit that just bolts in more or less.
Nice.
More power, Easton.
Yes.
More power, more torque
fair.
Means I could actually tow stuff. Putting an 8-foot bar on the thing won't way down the 4-cylinder to the point where I can get on the highway.
Are you gonna get it wrapped like Andrew did?
No, I think I had a few people when I posted that in my stories. They were like, "You should Proteum wrap it," and I was like, "Probably not. Like, we'll probably just leave it looking like a shitbox because that's easier."
You could always like just spray paint tag like freehand Proteum machining on the door or something.
Free candy on the side.
So one thing I did think about doing, I had a friend years ago who rhino lined the entire outside of his truck.
Yeah.
It was his like truck that he took his track bike to and from the track with, and it was the best thing ever because like you can't, like, if you scratch it, you're just like, whatever, I touched it up with rhino lining, and you can't tell anymore. And even then, even if you did scratch it, you can't tell because it's all rough and shit. Like, it was the best thing ever. It made it the most durable vehicle. I mean, it looked like dog shit, but it was so utilitarian. It was fantastic.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So yeah, once the MR2 is done, then I think we're gonna fix the stock engine first. I bought a gasket kit because the guy who used to own them was very vague on the condition of the engines. One is pulled out completely and in the back of the Trooper, and on the other one, it's still there. But one of them supposedly has been rebuilt, and then one of them supposedly has either rod knock or a blown head. And we're like, well, we'll just gamble and figure it out. And, worst case, we have to swap the engine sooner than we thought.
Yeah. Or worst case, you take all the good parts from one and the good parts from the other, and you make one good one.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the plan anyway. Like the one with the nicer body and the nicer paint and everything, I think Brad's going to turn into an overland vehicle.
Nice.
And then the garbage one, which is really not that bad, is going to be our shop truck.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. Does it have AC? Because living on the sun, you need AC.
They both do.
Nice.
So the weirdest part of it too is the chassis codes. Neither of them have it according to their chassis codes, but both of them have it according to what's actually there.
I wonder if it was one of those like dealer add-ons that they could do back in the day.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. Like my MR2 is like that with cruise control. Like I have a cruise control stock and all that stuff, but I looked into it and apparently it was a dealer only install. So
interesting.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Well, hey, we had a couple listeners come in with ideas of things they wanted us to talk about. One that I thought I brought up before this and I thought was a good thing to share, and maybe we can talk about it, was Triple Caution Machine Works said he wanted to know about our general order workflow, things that we've done to make us more productive. For instance, he makes shopping carts on McMaster when he's quoting jobs, and then if he gets the jobs, he places the order, which I thought was really smart.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything else that you guys do? I mean, I do something similar. Like I'll do that with MSC. Like if I know I'm waiting on a quick turn job, I'll put all of the tools that I need in the cart and just have them sitting and waiting. McMaster, looking at his text, I just realized not only can you make carts, but you can also then send the cart to yourself through an email and just have it sitting there and like title it whatever the job or quote number is.
You can even save the cart as a different name.
Oh, so maybe that's what he's doing then. Yeah.
Yeah, you can actually save them within McMaster Cart as well. Yeah, McMaster's amazing.
It really is. I mean, I told you guys, like, I've been using it a lot for material because it's not the cheapest, but you know what? I don't get emails.
They are the cheapest. That's the weird thing. Like today I was quoting out, like I've got to get, what is it? 72 feet of aluminum.
Mm-hmm.
And I quoted Alaro, Xometry, Howard Precision, Midwest Steel Supply. Midwest Steel Supply was the cheapest, but they're the ones who just pulled that garbage on me. So I have no beef with them yet, besides the fact that they're swamped. And I was quoting out the material. It's 1.25" round bar, which is 95 point. Every single job I run in my shop is out of 1.25" round bar for some reason. But the McMaster is $600 for that. The Xometry was $750. Alaro was $780. Everyone was $100 higher than McMaster.
Crazy.
Well, and the thing is they don't pull that kind of garbage. I've never gotten an email that's sorry, it's going to be another week. It shows up next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
McMaster's weird. I don't know how they do it.
I just wish I lived closer to a distribution place so I could go will call stuff the same day.
Yeah, I'm close enough to where I'll get stuff delivered same day. Because
really?
They're in LA, being outside of San Diego. I will, if I order something by like 7 a.m., I'll have it by 3 p.m.
Oof, that's so
That's
nice.
awesome.
It's pretty rad. I am definitely spoiled. Same with like tooling. I got a Western tool 3 miles from me.
Oh man.
So it's
That's
like
awesome.
And I've got a steel distributor that I use, metal distributor I use that's like 3 or 4 miles from me. They charge me $3 to bring me anything. It doesn't matter if it's a whole truckload or if it's a bag of Zeus buttons. Like the $3 to bring me whatever the hell I want.
So my material supplier will deliver for free, but also tries to deliver when I specifically tell them we'll call. So I will get calls while I'm at work from them, and it's a panicked driver saying, "Hey, I'm outside
Literally.
your suite. Can you open the door?" And I'm like, "Nope, not
No,
there.
I can't.
I specifically told you guys will call. If you look at your sheet,
Yeah.
it'll say will call." He's like, "Oh yeah, it does. Okay, sorry."
That's funny. I actually worked it out with both material. So obviously you don't have a yard. I got the yard
Right.
next to my shop. So both Western Tool and the material supplier, they'll actually leave it when I'm not there. I got lucky.
Nice.
So been fortunate with that kind of stuff. Unless it's something huge, like Easton said, you need a forklift to take it off. They won't do it. But if it's like hand load stuff, they will. So one of the things that I've done to help speed things up, kind of back on topic, trying to circle back. Nice little segue there. So I posted about this before, and I've talked to a couple of folks about it, is I don't take tools out of my tool changer unless I have to. And I don't put tools in my tool changer unless I have to. Like, the only things I usually ever change are a drill and a tap. Like, I almost never change end mills unless I need something like a very specific length of cut or something like that. And like, I don't even drill most of my holes. I interpolate most of my holes because I don't need them to be super round in most cases. If I need a super tight precision thing, I'll deal. That's something different. But most of the stuff I make, I don't need it. That may not work for everybody, obviously.
Let's
but
hear your organization, because Dylan and I have had this conversation before, and Dylan and I disagree on this. So I want to hear what your like tool changer organization is.
So, all right. So it was better when I first started, but it's kind of gotten a little wonky. But basically, what I have is probe is number one. And I did that so that way I did probe number one for a specific reason, actually, because I have a 20 position tool changer. If I get a machine with a 30 position tool changer and my probe is tool 20, now I can no longer use the same tool library, or I got to have my probe as tool 20 in the middle of the freaking tool changer. And so I put it as number one, so that way no matter what machine I add, probe will be number one, no matter how many positions it has. It makes it a little easier for CAM organization as far as tool library. Tool 2 is my half-inch 3-flute, inch and a half length of cut board.
You guys are just wrong.
And then from there, I have my 3/8 3-flute, inch and a 1 inch, or I'm sorry, 3/4 length of cut. My tool 4 is a quarter. I switch back and forth between two different lengths of cut, either 1 inch or 3/4 inch length of cut, quarter inch 3-flute, and those are all just aluminum tools. Then I have my aluminum face mill. So most of my aluminum tools are lumped together. And then after that is where kind of the wheels fall off. It used to be so it used to be then I had my half-inch 5-flute, my 3/8 5-flute, my quarter 5-flute, and my steel's face mill. But I haven't done any steel or stainless in like 6 months. So
I was going to say,
those out.
For somebody who says that they only cut aluminum,
yeah,
that's an awful lot of 5-flutes.
So when I first started doing this, I was doing a lot of steel, and at the beginning of this year, I bought about $2,000 worth of steel tooling, and I have used about 0 of it.
Oof.
So luckily, I got a good deal on it. It was about 50% off, but still, I was like, and it was Kennametal. It was I bought a few different things.
You didn't get a good deal.
No, I actually did. No, I actually did. So I got. I'll go into a little bit. I can't go into all of it, but I did the Titan tool special deal. So I bought. Some Core, some Harvey 2s and Harvey 3s. But the deal that the drug dealer made me was that he would give me a bunch of these old stock ones if I bought so many of the new ones. And so I've got a shitload. If someone needs 3/8 or half-inch Harvey 2 or Harvey 3 end mills, call me. I will sell them to you cheap because I have a shitload of them. I mean, I have like 30 3/8, 3/4 inch length of cut, 4-flute end mills.
I might take you up on that for just
I might take you up on that for sure.
Yeah. So
like,
I have a ton.
Actually, definitely take you up on
I
that.
have a ton of them. And I have 1/4 inch, 3/8, and half-inch, I think, in both, or in the Harvey 1, and I've got like, I think 3/8 and half-inch in the Harvey. And I don't use them. And I bought them at the Titan price. There's a few that I didn't, but I mean, I bought them at the cheaper price, which I don't know if you can get or not anymore. I haven't looked. But the ones that I was not thrilled about were the Core. The Core 5 kind of sucked. I think I told you, Dylan. Apples to apples, same depth of cut, like radial and axial depth of cut, same RPM. The Core 5 had almost double the spindle load as my MA Ford.
I've never tried the Core, but I tried IMCO's version of that, the APC 5 or whatever.
Right.
And I saw the exact same thing in the Kitty. Like,
yeah,
a ton more spindle load for the exact same cut parameters. And it's nice to hear that you had the same experience, because I was like, oh, I just attributed it to like, it's the Kitamura, it's a 30 taper. I'm probably just seeing the limits of that. But you're in a 40 taper seeing the same thing. So
right. Yeah, and the same length of cut. I mean, everything was the same, just 3 flute to 5 flute. And it just so happened that the speeds and feeds were within a couple percent, so I just ran it with the same stuff.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's like you said, when you're going back to tool changer organization, right? I pulled all those tools out, and I've since swapped in, like, I've got an 1/8 inch, 3/8 length of cut square end mill for 3 flute for doing aluminum. I've got, at the end of the tool changer, I have a 1/4 inch 3 flute and an 1/8 inch 3 flute ball nose. So like, I have enough tools in the tool changer, and I always have like 5 or 6 pockets that I can pull stuff in and out pretty quickly, that I can be able to turn stuff over quickly as quickly as possible. And then I keep a bunch of extra collets, and I keep as many extra tool holders as I can, so I can swap stuff out really quick and just throw it in the tool holder.
Yeah, and that's the same way I do it. I was just curious as like your order of operations, because this is coming from the lathe side is how I do it, which is doesn't even matter on the Speedio because of how fast the tool changes are.
Right.
Is like, it really doesn't matter how you organize a Speedio, but
he does it wrong.
No, I do it more correct than you. It's just unnecessary, because I've got all my tools in order of operation.
Right.
Of like making a part. So my tool number 1 is my face mill.
Same.
And then tool 2 is my like primary rougher. Tool 3 is my smaller rougher. And then I go like bigger finisher, smaller finisher, and then chamfer tools, and then like the rest of it is just garbage. And then tool 21 is my probe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not that far off, like you said, it's kind of flip-flop. My face mill is tool 6 or whatever it is, right? And so it just goes backwards.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's just, I was just curious, because everyone's got their own like little personal organization system kind of thing, and it's like,
yeah, because Ethan and I love to argue about shit that doesn't matter, and that's been one of them.
I feel like that's the machinist way, though.
Yeah. Well,
about the stupid stuff.
Well, I think you just pick something and you stick with it, and you're like, and I'm right no matter what, because like I developed more or less the basis of my standard tool package at the first shop I worked in. And like, I decided that these are the tool numbers for these tools, and nobody's going to tell me different, whether or not it's right or wrong.
Well, there is no right answer. It's like the classic, like, oh, I got a little tangent story really quick, and then we can get back to viewer questions. But it's like the classic argument between tapping and thread milling. There's like, I am strongly against thread milling, but I understand the benefits of thread milling, but I hate how long it takes.
Yeah.
And I'm like way too impatient and way too ADD to like watch a thread mill go through a hole for like 5 passes versus like, well, in aluminum you don't have to take 5 passes, but like in steel or whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're doing it wrong if you're taking 5 passes.
Yeah, but if you have to set one tool versus setting 2 tools, a drill and a tap, I'll take one. Because I usually have like one pocket available anyways.
Oh.
Yeah, I've been actually looking at those thread whirlers, I think.
Yeah.
Or thrillers, whatever they are.
Where it's like an end mill kind of deal.
Yeah, so like Dixie makes some, and Vargas makes some. And I've been thinking about picking some of those up, because then, like you said, it's one tool path.
Right.
Over and done with.
Right.
So I found a common enemy, though, between thread mill people and tap people.
Oh boy.
The common enemy is 3D surfacing a thread.
Huh?
Wait, what?
The part I just made on Friday had a rope thread, but then they radiused the crests.
Right.
So I had to use a 1/64 inch key seat cutter, full radius,
from
Harvey, and I used a 3D ramp to surface the thread.
Nice.
Oh my god.
That's terrible.
It was awful. It was so bad. I was like, this is so wrong what I am doing right now.
Yes,
Was this
that
for
is
like a
very
bottle
wrong.
cap?
No, it was for an injection molded like core,
Oh, okay.
or for an injection mold core. And it was
Interesting.
the worst part too was they were like, you can do this in your lathe, right? I was like, sure, if I get a custom insert.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, by the way, it also the thread doesn't come all the way to the front of the part.
Oh, awesome.
I was like, oh, sweet. So I'm not doing this in my lathe.
Yeah.
I was like, and you just added $100 to your price point.
Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah, how long did that take you?
I don't know. The whole part took me maybe 2 hours.
It was aluminum?
Yeah.
Oof.
It
That's
was
rough.
like, well, it was like 2 hours over 2 days. It was like a 5-minute cycle time in the lathe, and I've got everything like standardized on my lathe, so it's like really fast to set up. And then I just threw in the Speedio and a set of soft jaws, and then like this whole Harvey key seat cutter, and just blasted out the thread. There was no print, there were no dimensions, they had no call outs for anything. They just said the whole point was the customer was going to make it on their 4th axis, and they said, but if we use the feeds and speeds recommendations from Harvey, this part is a 60-hour long cycle time.
Good
I
lord.
was like, I don't think that's true. Like, I think
Holy
you're doing
crap.
something wrong. They're like, no, it's 60 hours, and we don't have time for that.
Good
It's like,
lord.
all right, that's definitely not true, but I can make that part in like under 2 hours.
Wow.
It's so weird. Harvey and Helical, like, they overestimate on a lot of things, and then some things they are super conservative on.
Yeah. I found that SGS is like that too. Like SGS speeds and feeds will be super conservative, but their tools will last forever at those feeds and speeds.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
So I just thought of another thing that I do that I've just recently started doing. I think I described it to you, Dylan, on like to save time. So I use HSM Works, right? So it's the kernel that Fusion was built on. So a lot of the functionality crosses over. So for doing multiple parts and multiple setups, obviously multiple work offsets, right? So what I did before is I would build my table and I would like put parts and like I'd put them in the right spots and all that kind of jazz. And what I realized that I was doing was just creating a lot of extra work. And so what I started doing was for like multiple parts, I literally just take the first part because the pattern doesn't work in HSM Works, so that's a different story. But I hit pattern and it says not available in turning operations. I'm like, but I'm not doing turning operations. I'm doing milling. In any case, so what I'll do is I'll literally just take my first operation list of operations and I'll just duplicate it and I'll change the work offset and I'll leave it on the same model and everything. So that way you don't have to stack anything up. The machine doesn't give a shit where it's at. And I was like a light bulb went on, and I know if a light bulb went on for me, someone else is out there going, "Oh, I should do that," because it's like it saves so much time.
I like discovered that one day, and I was like, "Wow, this is so much faster."
Yeah, that was me too, and it was like because I forever was when I'd make a change to a part, I'd have to make a change to the first one and then the second one, and like go select all the surfaces and all the other BS you have to do when you make one little change and stuff. And this way, you just literally duplicate it. And if you have to make a change, you make a change to the G54 or whatever, and then delete the other one, and then reduplicate it and run it again.
Yeah.
It's nice on the lathe operations too because they're model aware.
Okay.
So when you duplicate one, if you just have like face, rough turn, whatever, you just flip your work coordinate system around, and then it like most of your op2 is programmed by just hitting Control G.
Okay. Gotcha. Interesting.
So.
Oh, for your sub side, you're saying?
Yeah. Well, the sub side I'm using like a master file that I built, but I'm just talking for like generic op2 where you're gonna flip the part around.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, I use it for that too, for mills.
How's that new sub call it working for you?
Oh, it's working really well. It definitely has a little bit less run out. There's still a little bit of like mystery run out. I've got like 0.6 of run out or something like that when all the bolts are tight, and I should have 2. But I'm guessing there's just that sub spindle's been crashed or something at one point. Actually, I know it's been crashed, but
right because Norman was in there.
No, not actually. That was when I called Methods, and Methods was like they pulled up the serial number history and just gave me like the whole Apparently the turret just got demolished at one point.
Oh, geez.
And they like completely replaced the turret, I think.
Wow.
So
I swear it's never been crashed. It's been treated great.
Yeah. Only cut plastic and aluminum.
Only cut plastic and aluminum.
The only person who's allowed to say that is Jake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jake is literally the only person who in history who's ever actually gotten a machine that's only ever cut plastic, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
That's but every machine. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say he had a new chip tray that had like been never used.
Yeah. Right.
It's insane.
Right. Every machine for sale ever has always only ever cut plastic and aluminum.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear this. What other viewer questions we got?
Yeah.
So Dustin, Raven Rock Machine, asked who would win in a drinking contest. And it was insane that he asked this because we were all just messaging right before recording talking about drinking, which I thought was hilarious. I think you'd probably outdrink me, Drew.
Yeah, I think easily. I mean, IMTS next year, we can find out.
We can go for this and see how it works out. Depends on how much I've eaten that day.
Yeah.
That plays a role.
I mean, we have to all stay sober enough to carry Easton back to wherever we're staying. So.
This is true. Yeah. This is true.
Hey, I'm not that bad.
No, I'm just saying that we're that good.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's fair.
I'm well practiced at the drinking, but I don't do it anymore very much. It's weird, man. Like you get to, like I was telling you, Easton, I turned 25 and hangovers suddenly started to hurt. And then I've turned 30 and then like, it's weird. One day I'll be totally fine. I can have like, I don't know, we'll be sitting out at the river and I'll have, 3, 4, 5 beers, whatever, just sitting there hanging out. And then the next day I'll have one beer and it'll be like a Coors Light and my stomach will start hurting and then just my body gets pissed. And it's like, I don't know. After you're over 30, it's just all bets are off. It's fucked.
Yeah, what did you say? It's a slow decline to death.
It's just a slow decline into death. Things just start to hurt that didn't hurt before. Things stop working the way they used to. It's just a slow slide to the grave.
So anybody younger than that, you've got something to look forward to. And then let's see. Oh, David Ron, winner of the 100th episode giveaway. He said, Easton, do you want to have a beer and see a Datron? He just started at a place that has a Cube or a M10 or something.
Absolutely.
So you're going to have
to
hit him up.
That sounds like a blast.
Have you ever seen one in person?
At IMTS, but that's about it.
Yeah,
I saw one at, I think, West Tech.
Yeah, I saw one at IMTS when they're making the skateboards.
Nice.
Well, it's still my mom's favorite bottle opener.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Is the Datron one.
Nice. That's awesome. Those machines are so cool.
Yeah. Well, that, I think, is all of the listener ones I had.
Well, I've got one from Pickable Tool.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it Packable? Or no, yeah, it's Packable Tool. I think he makes like Milwaukee packouts.
Oh, nice.
Like modified ones.
Yeah, I was messaging with him earlier.
Yeah, he hit me up like a couple weeks ago about the Speedio. Turns out he's like 2 hours north of me, maybe like 2.5 hours north of me, and he's got like a Haas mini mill, and he's just had a bunch of questions about the Speedio versus a robo drill and all sorts of things. And I just said, in Wisconsin, the Yamazen people are awesome, and like strongly recommended the Yamazen people. And then Yamazen sent him back my way to say, hey, find out from Easton what all the mods he made to his Speedio. So apparently, I guess we now know that those are totally kosher because Yamazen knows everything I've done to my machine.
Well, there you go.
And is now recommending customers reach out to me. But he was just asking me about, like, what do you do when you have, like, monotonous, like, effectively button pushing? Like, once you get everything proved out, what do you do then?
Go to my day job.
I mean, and I don't really have a great answer. I think we talked about this a little bit before we aired. My answer is going to be like one that's not super conducive to a starting shop, but my answer is buy more machines, which is what I slowly did, and now I run around like a chicken with a head cut off every day, and it's a lot of fun because you like get one machine running while that cycle's running. You go like do op 2 and everything like that. But I don't know. I mean, you can throw some music on. I know I've been listening to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as the book version. That's super good if you guys are into Quentin Tarantino at all. But
I haven't seen the movie yet, but I really want to.
The movie's good, but the book is even like better than the movie, which is surprising because I think the book was written after the movie.
Oh wow. Yeah, I mean, I've taken naps. Like, I think I've said that on the show before.
Yeah.
Like, if I have long enough cycle times, I'll just lay back in a comfy chair and set a timer, go sleep.
Usually my thing is like, well, it depends on the cycle time. Like recently I've had a couple of parts where it'll be like I'm making 2 or 3 parts at a time and it'll be an hour cycle or whatever. So I'll have some time to kill. And so I'll go and program the second op. And then once the second op's done, I've had enough design work I've been doing too, where I'll go and then start doing CAD design. Because we also implemented a PLM or PDM, I'm sorry. And so like I've been doing that too. And you know,
what PDM did you get? The SolidWorks one?
Yeah, so I bought SolidWorks PDM and SolidWorks 2021, and I'm looking at. There was actually one I found the other day. So you had someone on recently. I can't remember who it was that uses MRP Easy. In any case, doesn't matter. But I was looking at them, and I think it's like $40 or $50 a month. So it's a little pricey. But then there's another one that I was researching, and I found it was like $25 a month. So I was like, oh, that might be interesting. But in any case, totally off topic. But yeah.
Well, let me know if you go down that route. Because, like,
yeah.
I don't know. I keep going back and forth on how much value I'd get out of one. Like, I see how a poor ERP or MRP integration at work can, like, be such a hindrance that, like, it makes me hesitant to start down something like that. Because it really is, like, garbage in, garbage out.
Sure.
And, like, I just don't know. Like, when I started down the Airtable route, like, I got it to the point where I was like, oh, this is sort of functional and it's cool. And then like I just let it lapse because I didn't have any more time to put into it.
Right. So this one, I just looked it up because I had it saved. It's ERPAG. So ERPAG, if you want to put it all together. But it's like $25 a month for a single user. And so the PDM is much the same way. So we actually spent probably 3 weeks like going through and tweaking things and like setting up the data cards for like the information that's on data cards. And it's not perfect. We still have a little ways to go, but like you said, it's garbage in, garbage out. But I love the PDM because I can save it, I can check it in, and then when I go to bring it back up, and all the CAM data stays in there too because HSM's embedded in SolidWorks, and then I bring it back up and it'll go, this file is checked in. Do you want to check it out? Like this file is read only, and so it's like before I never knew what version I was working on, and like I'm starting to do rev controls on things so that way I know what the CAM file is tied to as far as the revision and stuff like that. It's not perfect, but I'm getting there. So like it's been a huge help. And if I start like seeing more sales, the MRP is going to become a much bigger issue because like just this one little part that I was telling you guys about, it's got a 5-piece bomb. And so like that, and it's got 6 configurations. And so like that, like skyrockets all that shit.
Yeah. And there's nothing worse than selling and then realizing you don't have half the pieces or like the one main piece you need or something.
Exactly. And I want to make sure to keep everything in stock.
For sure.
All right, well,
I had to poke at you. Sorry.
I mean that's fair, but
I'm just giving you a hard time. Literally just giving you a hard time. No hard feelings.
No, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, and something I used to do at my last job that like, I don't know why this like works really well for me, but I can watch like a movie or something while I button push.
Yeah.
And like, I know there are shops out there that are like, you will not touch your phone when you're button pushing. It's like, well, as long as I get my work done and the parts are inspected and everything.
Right. Yeah, I got in a fight with not my first boss, but like they had a manual shop side foreman that hated me because he would always see me on my phone and he'd be like, you're not doing anything. I'm like, well, I've got 3 machines running. All the floor is clean around them.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? Parts are deburred.
Wipe them down.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I'm going to be on my phone. I'm done. Yeah. Like I'm waiting for the green or the light to change on any of these machines.
There's a buddy of mine from my old work. He ran the wire EDMs a lot. And he would literally look like he was asleep. He would like he'd sit his chair with his back to the machine, and then lay his head against not the door, because obviously for obvious reasons, right? But he like right next to the door, and he would just like sit there with his like eyes closed or with his headphones in, looking at his phone, and everybody get like all the supervisors get pissed at him. He's like, dude, I'm listening to the machine. My head is resting on the machine. I can hear what it's doing.
Yeah.
I can hear when it arcs out. I don't need to be standing there looking at it. And once like a couple guys figured that out, I was like, oh, that's pretty clever. That's kind of trick. But like you said, being on your phone, like watching a movie or whatever, yeah, I've done that too.
Yeah. Well, and if he's got a second machine, I mean, he can keep that spindle turning too. And it sounds like he's looking to use the mini mill for prototypes and more quick change stuff. So I do that a whole lot. I mean, with the TC, like I'll try to keep that running too with something that isn't.
Yeah, and hopefully he'll make his way down here at some point and come play with the Speedio. I think that was one of the most valuable things was coming and playing with yours and just seeing one in person, like making like non just demo parts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and getting like real world opinions, not like shop floor or like showroom opinions from the apps guys. Yeah.
Salesman opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll make everything, and it does it faster than everything else.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it does do that, but I mean, you would know that if you hadn't gone for a Haas.
Yeah, this is true. Hey, you know what? I went from like 14 or 18 seconds per tool change and a 4,500 RPM spindle to 4.5 seconds of tool change at an 8,100 RPM spindle. Do you understand the quantum leap involved there?
And an enclosure.
And an enclosure, and not having to hand change tools or hand load them or hand anything.
I think my tool change only went down by like a second or two because it used to be me reaching inside the machine and grabbing the tool out and putting the next tool in.
Well, the way that my old machine works, the way my old machine worked is it would jog the table over out of the way because more than once I nicked a tool putting it in, and just because it only had 6 inches of quill travel. That's all it had in Z travel. So like you were pretty close. And especially if you had any length on the tool, you could come out right into the part. And so because it had to move over and the rapids were 250 inches a minute, it was like, it's just like watching paint dry.
Wait, you had 250 inches a minute on your first machine? Mine had 135 on X and Y.
It says 250. I never actually like checked it. But that's what the number in the control says. I don't know for sure.
What, your Miyano was that slow?
Actually, sorry. The Miyano, I think, was at like 500 or 600.
Okay. I was going to say, it wouldn't be much of a drill tap machine with a rapid
that Miyano was still really fast. But at the same time, I maybe used that Miyano like 30 times.
Right.
Since I bought it, kind of thing. Because it was like... Right after I bought it, there was like the major issue I found with it. So then I just used it for square parts and drilling and tapping holes.
Yeah. Well, guys, I will let you get back to it. But before we go, the question I ask everybody all the time, what have you guys been researching this week?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I've definitely been researching a couple things, so I got to figure out what.
Yeah. Let me check my Google history real quick.
Yeah, exactly. Well, okay. I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole this morning while I was waiting for material. Is to container ship houses or like container houses. Mm-hmm. I was just like researching because I saw some ad about one the other day and I was like, I want to know how these are insulated. Like I don't understand how they insulate them. And so I was like learning about that. So that's non-machining related.
No, but super cool. Related. Like there are some amazing shipping container houses.
Yeah, they're like not super efficient though because you end up still building a normal house inside of the shipping container because you still have to frame in the walls.
Yeah, exactly.
So might as well just not use the shipping container in the first place. But so that was a little disappointing because I thought there was going to be like some slightly more creative way of like insulating them, but you still just build a 2x4 frame inside and then insulate it like a normal house. Let's see what else. Capto. That's one. I'm trying to figure out. I bought a Capto live tool for my lathe. I don't understand how it works.
So how much money are you going to lose to Capto?
Yeah.
A lot, probably. But
are you going to how many organs and things are you going to have to sell to buy Capto?
Well, worse than that, I want to get into the Coro Mill 316, I think is what it is. It was designed for the Speedio, and I really want to get one.
Oh.
It's like your Big Kaiser FCR holder. but for like replaceable tip, like chamfer mills and such.
Oh, cool.
Interesting.
Okay. Big Kaiser
I
has
wanna get
something
one
like
of
that
those.
too. I think it's like the
Yeah.
Chamfer Boy or something.
The Sea Cutter Mini.
They've got one
think.
called, I think, the Chamfer Boy as well, because they love their like baby and boy and like mega baby micro collet chuck.
Hey, they have some weird names with some great tools.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, by far amazing tools, but their naming convention's a little bizarre.
No, so I've just been like trying to research like ancient Sandvik history this week because so the live tool that I bought is like an old live tool, probably from like the dawn of time of Capto. And you know, like a normal Capto live tool, you like think there's going to be like the screw on the side, and you like loosen the screw, and like the little HSK gripper kind of thing inside expands and contracts inside the Capto holder to like suck it in. But there's no screw on the side, and there's no gripper.
Does it hold in by magic?
Howdo.
I called Sandvik, and the lady like in tech support answers, and I was like describing it to her, and she goes, "Well, there's like going to be like a gripper inside and like a screw on the side." I was like, "Okay, but there's not." She's like, "What do you mean there's not?" I'm like, "There's not."
You're like, it's your product. What are you talking about?
Did you
And she's like,
on a serious
let
note,
me
did
contact engineering and see if I can dig up the drawings for that tool. And like, I'm still waiting to hear back from them, but I've also been like just researching to like see what I can find. Like, because at first when I first got it, it was like dirty inside the like taper.
Mm-hmm.
So then like tools would stick in like a Morris taper, and I was like, oh, maybe that's how it's supposed to be. Then I like clean the dirt out, and then like the tools like slide in and out smoothly. So that's definitely not it.
Did you seriously though? Did you like reach out to Jody? He might know.
I should
that's
should
a good
definitely
idea.
reach out to him.
Yeah, he might know.
All right, let's hear from you two now. What you guys research?
So I got two. One is kind of manufacturing related. One's not. So I'm a big time fastener nerd. And so a couple nights ago, I was reading about AN, NAS, and MS bolts. When it comes to like racing, the convention anymore is like AN, NAS, or MS bolts. Off-road, guys like MS because 12 point, it looks pretty. But basically, there's not much difference between an NAS and an MS as far as strength and whatnot is concerned. But, well, not all MS are 12 point, I don't think. But in any case, I was researching the differences between them, and like more than researching the differences between them, I was researching places to buy them. And what I found last night when I was doing this was that the same suppliers that I found the time before I did this, which is Reed Products and Aircraft Spruce, are pretty much the best places to get them. Not because they're the best bolts necessarily. I mean, Reed Products does make a very good bolt, but it's just the most convenient. Reed, I can call them. They're right up the road from us, so I can have them pretty quickly. When they're a small mom and pop shop, so like you can talk to somebody that knows their own catalog really well. And I can say, this is what I need, and then they'll ship it to me. And then Aircraft Spruce, I mean, it's like McMaster-Carr kind of. Like you just go on and select, I want 30 million of these, and they'll send it to you. So that was my manufacturing related one. That's more because of race cars and stuff, but along the same lines. And then last weekend, I think, not this past weekend, the one before, I think, we bought a Louisiana whatever smoker from Costco. And so I've been researching like recipes on how to cook stuff because I've never smoked anything before. And this is like smoking for dummies. Like I like to cook. This is one of the machinists who cook kind of thing, right? But I love to cook. And I really do. I like to cook. And I haven't cooked as much recently because our barbecue is just a piece of shit. And like, I can't control temperatures on it, and just I never know when stuff's done, so it ruins things. And I don't like cooking in the oven as much because it's just not as fun. And so this thing's been really awesome. I love it. I can set the temp to whatever I want. I can walk away, let it get up to temp, and then throw my stuff on there. And it just you can use it as a grill. I used it tonight to cook chicken thighs, and it took like 20 minutes to get up to temp. From the time I turned it on to the time I was done, it was like 20 minutes. So not much different than a regular barbecue.
Yeah, I wish I had your barbecue last night. I made some jerk chicken.
Nice.
I was wishing I had my smoker finished and was not procrastinating on welding the rest of that up. So.
Yeah, that's what my cousin was like, well, why don't you just build a smoker? Because I want it done now.
Yeah.
I don't want it in 4 years. I want it now.
Yeah, it's been 3 years on mine.
Yeah.
It's still not done.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, this thing, so it was $400. I think the pellets were like $20 for a bag of pellets. It's got a little computer on it and a touchscreen kind of, or not touchscreen, but like buttons on it. And you can set the temperature. It's got a feedback loop, so it controls the temp. It's got an auger for the pellets. It automatically controls it all. It automatically lights. Like, you don't have to do shit. And it's got two probes. So like, I made a brisket the other day and I shoved the probe in it. And so I didn't even have to open it to see what was going on. And it's like, this is what I've been wanting.
Dylan cries in apartment.
Yeah, I was going to say, we have shared barbecues that I'm never going to use at my apartment. Yeah, no thanks. No thanks. So I've got 2 tool holders that I've looked at, and then 1 machining app that I've looked at in the last couple of weeks. One, the app is called Millilyzer, and I think Vince Fab posted about it. But it'll actually, you can put in your tool, your spindle, horsepower, all that stuff, and it'll actually do all the curves and like show you the forces for your cut. And like, I think it's a $60 or $70 tool, and it'll also show you like tooltip deflection, the torque you'll need for your cut, possible stability lobes for like RPM for that type of tool, and like you can put in different coatings and different variable pitch cutters and all kinds of stuff. It looks kind of interesting. I wish they had a demo, because I would like to try it out before I bought it. And then the 2 holders, one Austin, Entirely Crimson, posted. I don't know if you saw it, Easton, but it's a shrink fit coolant through with like the streams of the coolant come out around the hole. So if it's not like not a through spindle end mill, you can still use it. And it was a YG1, and I immediately like looked it up and was like, okay, how much do I need to spend for this holder?
I was going to be looking that up after this. I saw that post this morning and I was like, must resist looking up right now. I have things to be doing.
I found it on Suncoast Tools, and it was like $200, I think.
Oh, what? Wait, what? $200?
$200, dual contact. Oh, well, mine was a dual contact one. I'm sure you can find the one that's
I'll buy a dual contact one anyways.
Yeah, but it was a 3/8 one.
Almost everything I buy is dual contact.
Through spindle, all that stuff. $200. I think it was $205 or something along those lines.
That's really not bad.
No. Oh, and I don't know if I told you guys, I bought the Bolt induction heater that Cad Chris was talking about when he was on the podcast. He bought like that little 1,000-watt Bolt induction heater, and it worked perfectly. Like, so much better than the Torch. And granted, it was a 3/8 holder, so I'm sure, you know, your results may vary, but for $200 or $180 on Amazon.
How's the cooldown time?
I mean, about the same as a Torch. Like, you're just, I usually, if I need to shrink something, I do it before I go home for the night, and then I'm just like, all right,
just let it sit.
Yeah, I'll come in tomorrow and use it then.
Hey, you know what? I like resisted that for a long time, and then I finally just gave in because I watched like a video of Heimer doing this. I was like, guess I can too. You just stick it in the coolant tank.
Oh, okay. I mean, I guess the pro level ones spray it with coolant.
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, like initially I was like, is that gonna like fuck with the temper? And then I was like, you know what? It's H13. It's not gonna like H13's so stable.
Yeah.
That it's gonna be fine. And so I just dunk it in the coolant tank, and then you're good to go.
Well, the idea is you're not getting it too hot, anyways, right? So you shouldn't be fucking with it too much.
Right. Yeah, so yeah, I might end up getting that holder because it'd be nice to put my rougher in something with through spindle. And then the last one, have you guys heard of Pause Work Holding? PAWS? So I saw them in a Yamazin demo video. Their stuff is insanely priced, but they have a seating tool for parts if you're like doing automation, where it'll actually go over and it's like one of those center punches where you push down hard enough and eventually it releases the internal spring. And it's a big contact patch holder that does that. And so you can adjust the force that it has, but it'll go over the part, push down on it until you hear it punch the part so it seats in. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then Brad had it quoted through work and it was like $2,500. And I was like, okay, never mind.
Okay, I looked into buying one of their like coolant manifolds.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted like $7,000 or $8,000 for it or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
Yeah.
No.
Hard pass.
Hard pass.
Yeah. What's bothers me about that company is all of their stuff is very cool and seems like it would work really well, and it is all 10x what I would pay for it.
Yeah.
Well, Yamazin pushes them hard because they have like a billion Speedios
Right.
that they make all this stuff on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of the demo videos on Yamazin's website, I think, are from Pause. Like the one that I was looking at was a Flex 2 demo. And so I think they have a robot loading all this stuff and then making all these parts.
Nice. But another quick question before we log off.
Mm-hmm.
You got your Flex Vices, didn't you?
Yes.
How do you like them?
I had the same question.
So far, they look really cool. I haven't had any use of them yet. I will let you,
Okay.
I should have something in the next couple days and let you guys know.
Because those parts
Dylan
that I was
is one of those old people shops that we were talking about earlier. Dylan
yeah, that
has,
buys
like,
random
every
shit.
kind of work holding imaginable, and I think he like uses about 50% of it.
I've used everything I've bought. I think.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So because those parts I was making, I was telling you about the water outlets. Those vices would be perfect for making like a quick pallet kind of setup for those things, because I can double station them and I can do first and second ops, and they're so small and compact. I can put a bunch of them on the VF2 table without having to make a fixture.
They're cheap too.
Yeah, and they're very reasonably priced. So like I can't make a Mighty Bite subplate fixture for cheaper than I could buy like 4 of those vices.
Yeah.
And make the same number of parts.
I'll definitely let you know how they work out, because I posted the picture. I made the riser and all the mounts and stuff. I just need to cut into them.
Yeah, I'm really, really interested. I'm waiting to see how like sales and stuff do, because I don't want to be one of those old shops that buys work holding and has it sit on the shelf.
Yeah. Yeah.
But depending on how sales go, that's what I want to get. But I want to see how they work too, of course.
For sure. Well, real quick before we wrap up, Patreon thank yous. Thank you to Jake Yates, who could not be here but wanted to be here in spirit anyway. Thanks for joining the Patreon, and thanks everyone who else is a Patreon member. And thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back next week.